Today we're also brought to you by Policy Genius. It's your one-stop shop to find and buy the insurance that you need. All you have to do is head over to policygenius.com, answer a few questions about your home, your car, and more, and Policy Genius will show you the price estimates for policies that fit your search and help you understand your options. The Policy Genius team can look for ways to save you money, and if they find a better rate than what you're paying now, they will switch you over for free. Customers who bundled their home and auto policies with Policy Genius saved an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies, so you can trust them to offer unbiased help and advocate for you at every step until you're covered. They don't add on extra fees. Policy Genius will never sell your information to third parties, and Policy Genius's top-notch service has earned them thousands of five-star reviews across Google and Trustpilot. Since 2014, Policy Genius has helped over 30 million people shop for insurance and placed $120 billion in coverage. So head to policygenius.com to get your free home and auto insurance quotes and learn how much you could save. policygenius.com. And of course, we're brought to you by something I literally use every day. It's AG1 from Athletic Greens. I wanted some better energy, optimize my immune system, and I don't like taking pills and vitamins. I'm not really into that. And you know, the thing about a lot of these like powders is they don't actually taste very good. The Athletic Greens AG1 tastes delicious. I've been taking it for like 3 weeks and I love it. It doesn't taste like drinking sand. It's got kind of a mild tropical taste, and I actually kind of look forward to each morning because I used to love drinking OJ until I found out how much sugar was actually in it. With one scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy recovery, focus, and aging. All of the things. Like I said, I don't like taking pills if I don't have to, and this stuff, it's a nice quick drink. You chug it, it tastes kind of nice and fruity, and I'm into it. So whether you eat, even if you're on kind of an alternative diet, keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, it's all of that. There's less than a gram of sugar, there's no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificials, and it still tastes good. It's just absolutely healthy and delicious. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb, right? It's a small micro habit. They call it a micro habit. That's an interesting turn of phrase, but it does have big benefits. It's one thing you can do every day to take care of yourself, and it also comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is really important, especially in these winter months when we're not outside getting as much sunlight. Most humans don't get enough vitamin D because we're meant to live our lives outdoors and not indoors at an office. So reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to athleticgreens.com/tire. That's athleticgreens.com/tire to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/tire. All right, today my friend Brett Berk is in studio. Brett is a longtime automotive journalist who's written for the New York Times, Vanity Fair, dozens of publications, Esquire. He is bi-coastal in New York and Los Angeles, and he's out here driving some appropriate Los Angeles vehicles. We also talk about infrastructure issues, EVs, and more. It's automotive journalist Brett Berk on the Smoking Tire podcast.
What do they have you driving on this road and track thing?
Polestar 1.
Oh, Are they the
Nice
sponsors
car.
or something?
Yes, they are.
Because no one's ever driven one of those otherwise.
I know, right?
Brand new car.
They originally said we're going to put you in a
sold them,
Polestar 2, and I was like, no, you're not. That's a hybrid, like an electric crossover, right? And I was like, there's nowhere to charge on the route that we're doing, right? And they're like, oh yeah, let's scratch that.
This other one.
Yeah. The one is, have you driven the one?
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, I think it's a cool car. I don't understand exactly why anyone would buy one,
Oh, you wouldn't?
$155,000.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Volvo, essentially.
I actually offered to buy the press car.
Oh.
At like a,
Significant discount.
Yeah. and Chris Harris bought their press car.
Oh, really?
He bought the UK press car.
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful car.
This has been Brett steps and shit in the first 2 minutes.
No, but at a significant, at an appropriate, discount.
Yeah.
It's the perfect car for someone who's driven fucking everything else and wants something pretty and comfortable.
Yeah. I've literally never seen one on the road.
I saw one.
Okay.
I saw one in
Right.
Malibu, and it was the cool, like, pearlescent color.
Oh, yeah.
The press car was gray. The press car I had was gray.
Yeah,
but
same.
that white is not really a, like, white. It's got, like, a really cool, like a blue tint to it, and catches light very well.
Wasn't the production or sales number in...
Wow, that's a fucking...
Look at that headline.
That's a cold as ice article. Undesirable Polestar 1 discontinued for 2022. I think that's a meaner headline than that car deserves, because I don't think that car was ever going to be a 2-year car. I think it was one and done.
It's categorized under hates.
Right.
Like this blog, it's in that category. So that's why.
What is this blog?
Dry Vertical. Dryvertical.com.
All
I don't know what that is, but like, wow, that's fucking cold. I mean, I think they built as many as they said they were going to build, and then they stopped building them.
Yeah.
I think it's weird that it's still in the press fleet.
Right.
That's strange,
Well,
but
I don't think. I think they're trying to drum up as much press as they can to try to sell the ones.
It's much
that they
more of
haven't
a
sold.
problem that you don't see the 2s anywhere. Isn't that? I mean, of course you don't see these. They built 6 of them, but like that I don't see the Polestar 2 anywhere is kind of an issue, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I spend most of my time in New York, and it's not the greatest place for car spotting. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, but out here usually my eye is open for stuff that I never see. And
I mean, especially like like they drive Fiskars here.
Yeah.
How is it? What kind of a world am I seeing the Karma Rivero on the road and not this fucking thing? Like, is Volvo question. That uncool? Like,
I don't know. It's a really good question. But I did a story about Polestar when they were launching. I did sort of a story looking at them and at Genesis and sort of examining. Sort of how do you launch a new brand from an existing brand, especially one that's supposed to be sort of like a startup or electric thing. And my thesis going in was that these were two very different takes on luxury mobility or whatever. And Polestar was this hip, fashionable electric thing, and Genesis was sort of like more of a staid traditional luxury idea.
It seemed like Genesis had the Lexus model to work off of, right?
Yeah, and as I got deeper into it, they started to sort of merge a little bit and go by each other. And some of it was just based in the sort of the corporate culture of each of the, and I think the national culture of each of the places, where it's like not about standing out, it's not about making waves in either culture.
Yeah, the Koreans and the Swedish are very like, no, it's okay.
Right.
We'll be fine. Just don't let them see you.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We see a bunch of Genesises around here. That crossover is very popular. Yeah. The GV70 is like, I'm starting to see those a lot. Yeah. That thing looks good.
Yeah,
it's a nice looking car.
They're good looking cars, I think, for the most part. I've been impressed with what they're doing. And they are just pouring money into stuff, and really great talent. They've hired really great talent to work for the company, and really just trying to create a differentiated spot for themselves.
I think it's starting to work. In the beginning, it definitely it stumbled a little bit, especially their naming scheme. Like, it's a Hyundai Genesis, but now, like, why did we bother with that? We should have just, we just had the Rivian for a week. Okay. And so driving around a fairly weird-looking vehicle that has a name no one's ever heard on it before is a very interesting experience. Yeah. Like, people are like, what is that? And you go, it's a Rivian. And they go, but who makes it?
Right, yeah.
And you go, Rivian, and they go, no, but it's like a Ford, right? And no, it's a Rivian. And then they get mad.
Right. Like, I don't know about this. What do you get off? Right.
That's what they said. But I have never heard of them. That's not my fault. Pick up a book. Fuck. But it presents an example of how rare it is to have a totally new thing.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's true. I think it's becoming a little more common in the automotive sector right now.
Right.
Just because there's so many like startups, and whether they continue to exist or not,
right.
it will become.
It seems like Faraday Future may actually sell a car, right?
Or make a car.
Or make a car.
I can't believe it.
And like Fisk, like what is Heinrich Fisker doing? Like they've got he has got this ocean thing that on Twitter he seems awfully confident about, but like who the fuck is going to buy this?
Yeah.
Like
I don't know. We did a story at CES a couple of years ago where I interviewed him. I think it was for Car and Driver. And I turned in what I had from the story, which was a bunch of evasion. You know, and I've talked to Henrik a lot of times before, and he's a charming person and an interesting interview, and I think a talented designer. But maybe not the greatest business person in the world, as far as I can tell.
Nothing with his actual name on it has ever worked.
Right.
Sooner or later, he's going to figure this out. Like when he was designing BMWs, we got the Z8.
Right.
And like anything with his name on it is like, look at that.
Yeah.
Tell me how that stands out from a Polestar 2.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I was like, where are you going to build it? And he's like, we have found capacity in a location. And I was like, that's not really an answer to the question of where you're going to build it. It's like, no, we're doing this thing where we're building it, contract, so we don't have to waste money building a factory. I was like, okay, but still, like, it has to occur somewhere. Like, this isn't just like
on Earth.
You can't just download it. You know what I mean?
That's funny. Yeah. There will be an OTA update to what exactly?
Yeah, like to the car. The car will be delivered over the air.
Yeah,
right.
But like, do you think we're gonna go back to like the 1920s where there was all these crazy manufacturers of stuff? Or is it just like strongest one wins and everyone else is gonna just sink?
It's impossible to know, I mean, and that, that's the diversity of manufacturers that existed in the early days of the automobile disappeared. You know what I mean? So, and because of economies, the requirement of economies of scale and just the nationalization and globalization of the market. Yeah. I was talking to someone recently for a piece that I'm working on. It was a guy who's the historian at the Peterson, Leslie Kendall.
Oh, yeah.
And he's working on a book about car makers from California in the early part of the 20th century.
Probably a shockingly thick book, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
but like they were built for like desert environments. They had extra strong frames. They had larger cooling systems, and all of these things that made
literally local market.
Yeah, local market. Yeah. But then as all cars became national products, and bigger companies sort of took hold, all that stuff went away because all cars suddenly had all of those things. So. I don't know. I think there's the possibility, I was just seeing something from Pininfarina that they're developing, like a adaptable platform, electric car platform or something that they can sell out.
Got to have a skateboard, right?
Yeah.
You got to have the skateboard.
So if you're selling the skateboard, just the skateboard, then anyone can put the top on the same way.
Well, I think that's kind of what Rivian is started trying to do, right? Have their skateboard that can be a cargo van or be a luxury truck or whatever, right?
Yeah, and sell it to other places. So if that happens, that could be
that would be like the 20s where you buy your platform.
Right.
But like, I don't want Pininfarina making the skateboard. I want them making the body.
Right.
Like how Rivian can have the skateboard.
Right. Exactly.
Send that shit to Pininfarina and have you make a body for me.
Maybe now's the time to revive some of those old cars.
It could be.
I mean, it's like a Murphy or something like that. Ralston. Maybe we should buy the rights to those now.
Well, they got Radford going, so why not, right? And I mean, you've still, some of those folks are still, still doing stuff. You've got Zagato still drops one once in a while. Touring had the Alfa Romeo, that weird thing they're doing.
Could be. True. It could be an interesting time. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the future is always an evanescent dream, you know what I mean? And we don't really know where it's going to.
I hope it's not just a bunch of eggs, just a bunch of crossover eggs that is probably where it'll be.
Yeah, there is a way in which, forms gravitate toward the function or something like that.
Well,
and
the more CAD, the more finite our calculations for efficiency and whatever, the more computers will end up with the same result, right? So that that Hennessy thing, the F5 that they just came out, this hypercar thing, not designed by a human.
Oh wow!
Designed entirely by an algorithm. Certain parameters were put in. It must go this fast. It must make this much downforce. It must this and that and blah, blah, blah. And it has to fit around this powertrain and has to fit around this cockpit. And boom, calculate. And this is what the computer spit out. And it's a design that appears derivative, but I think it's by sheer luck that it's not heinous.
Right.
It's pretty good looking. It's pretty cool.
It's actually, it's a pretty decent looking vehicle. And you can see elements of, from other cars on there. But we're going to end up with, like, have you ever done the exercise with, like, mid-sized sedans where if you cover up the nose and the tail and you just end up with the same passenger compartment no matter what the car is?
Right.
But I think the electric skateboard could actually free us from that a bit. Like, look at the Hummer. Not at all slippery, but because it has a huge battery, they can say it has a decent range. So we can kind of sneak past the whole, like, reducing drag for efficiency by just adding a bigger battery.
I hope we get away from range as being now that cars can all do like, over 200, like let's get away from range and let's talk about, if we can teach people about efficiency like per kilowatt hour or something, that's because like it's not like Porsche's like, well, we have a 26-gallon tank, and Ford's like, well, we have a 28-gallon tank. No one gives a shit how big the gas tank is. It's all about miles per gallon. So
no, totally
retraining people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned a little bit about this push for big electric trucks. You know what I mean?
I'm deeply concerned.
Yeah. I mean, on a lot of levels, not just this is obviously an important one, is efficiency and driving a thing with that's essentially a piece of plywood, an upright piece of plywood that weighs 9,000 pounds. Yeah. You're not going to get great efficiency. But I think also
you can cause some carnage, though.
Yeah, you can cause some. That's the real thing is these things when they crash into other things, be they other cars or humans or people on bicycles or whatever. They're going to be intensely lethal. Yeah. Like more so even than the 2.5 times more lethal than we're seeing right now. That NHTSA's figures for SUVs versus passenger cars.
Totally, and like it's a nice display of technology. You don't want to crap on the whole. Not every single aspect of the Hummer isn't terrible. Right. That crab walking thing is a neat, like, that's cool. I can respect that. Like, but didn't we kill Hummer because it was so bad for the fucking planet that it was like insulting to people's intelligence? Like, we're going to revive it in this deeply cynical way and hope that, like, I'm literally reading Unsafe at Any Speed right now. I bought a copy off of eBay. Have you read it?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Like, have you? I mean, not that you wouldn't remember, but you read it like recently?
No, I read it like in college.
It was probably like required reading at some point. But I just finished the first chapter, which is about the Corvair. People really associate the whole book about the Corvair, but it's really just the first chapter. But like, holy shit, was that a bunch of cynical people pinching pennies and not giving a fuck? Yeah. And now it's like that cynicism just seems to have shifted from cheapness in engineering to side hustling in greenwashing, you know?
It's a really weird thing. I'm working on a story about this book that's called There Are No Accidents Here. Have you read this book? So I did an interview with the author, and now her name is totally slipping my mind, so maybe Zach will look it up.
We just had Alyssa Walker on the show. Do you know Alyssa?
Oh, that name sounds familiar.
She writes for Curbed.
Okay,
and she talks about urbanism and stuff like that. And we talked about the term accident because she, I believe she wrote an article that was a review of that book or something. Yeah, and it's the idea of getting people away from using the word accident because there are systems that have either been overlooked, sidestepped, or intentionally designed that result in accidents more so than just, oh, you fucked up.
Yeah. And more so here in
Jessie Singer, that's the book.
Yeah. They're more so here in the sort of grotesque form of capitalism we practice in America than other places. Where we view certain categories of people as expendable.
I haven't read this. It seems interesting, but after I finish Unsafe at Any Speed, this seems like maybe the next, the 50 years later update that I should read.
And it's it's a lot of just the same thing. You know what I mean? Like shockingly, just exactly the same thing. And the auto industry, has been forced to adapt in certain ways. In part specifically because of Ralph Nader.
It was I think it's the prologue of Unsafe at Any Speed. It says like that our nation will tolerate 40,000 road deaths a year for long is unfathomable. Yeah. And here we are 50 years later, and it's the same shit. It's like we managed to make these cars safer. And with all these advanced features and all this stuff, and where have we gotten from 40,000 a year to 30,000 a year?
Yeah, well, they're back up. I mean, per mile driven, they've definitely gone significantly down.
Yes, that's
there's
true.
a lot more people on the road, a lot more cars on the road, but they are going up again, and they have been for the past decade.
Yeah,
I did a big story about this for Road and Track a few issues ago. That was sort of examining these sort of core issues behind the increase in roadway deaths.
What did you find
during the pandemic? Well, there's three sort of main things, and they all relate back to Jesse Singer's premise, and there are no accidents: booze, belts, and speed. And so I think half. I'm going to try to get these figures right. Half of roadway deaths involve people driving under the influence. Half involve unbelted.
That's
unbelted
shocking
drivers.
that's still
which
a
is
thing.
like 10% of the population doesn't wear seatbelts, but half of roadway deaths are people that are not wearing seatbelts.
Wow.
And then I think it was something like a quarter or 15% involve speed. And those, there's overlap in those circles, but there's some pretty analog solutions to these issues that don't involve expensive and enormous suite of advanced driver assistance protocol,
or that certainly don't involve removing the driver from the equation entirely.
Right.
So
a requirement that all seatbelts need to be engaged before the car can be driven, which we tried to do in the early 70s, but was overturned by an act of Congress, would be one.
The technology certainly exists.
Yeah, you can't start the car and you don't put the seatbelt on.
Could be OTA even. I mean, there's cars, certainly cars that I've operated where you can't put them into gear unless the doors are closed, for instance.
Yeah.
But you could extend that to seat belts. We have seat sensors for airbags. They're you could probably already do it. You probably literally could couple keystrokes and do that. Yeah.
And lockout mechanisms for people who are inebriated works better with alcohol than with other drugs, obviously, because it's harder to detect. Lower threshold for driving under the influence. Ours is about twice the global average. And then speed. Really, a lot of it comes down to roadway design. Roads are designed for people to maximize velocity and traffic, and not to maximize safety. In fact, roadway engineers aren't taught about safety pretty much at all.
And is it typically, are we talking about urban environments versus highways exactly?
Yeah. And I think there's a greater risk, when there's more things to run into. Highways have a dedicated use, that limits some of that in certain ways. I mean, because of the speed, the nature of the crash is going to be more calamitous if it happens at a higher speed. But
you're not hitting an oncoming, and you're not hitting someone on a bicycle, and you're not
or pedestrians. Which
there's not a big differential between you and in theory, you and people around you.
Yeah, pedestrian death is actually one of the big areas that has increased in the past 10 years. It's up 50% in America in the past decade. And
that seems, because I haven't personally studied this, but anecdotally, that seems like our obsession with ever increasing vehicle sizes and the reduced visibility that comes with certain, either it's semi-truck style hoods, thicker pillars that might have airbags in them, or for rollover design, or you drive a car from the 80s or the 90s and it's like, oh my God, this visibility is so amazing. Like I can see.
Don't flip it. But.
The E28 5 Series, you know, like it's like I'm like in a greenhouse here, you know, instead of being in a dark tunnel.
Yeah. But no, there is a significant. Even NHTSA says there's a significant effect when an SUV collides with a pedestrian.
Oh yeah, that person's not walking away.
2.5 more
is
times
the number
likely
of
to die.
impacts going up, or is it the percentage of those impacts that end in fatalities is going up?
That is a really good question. I don't know the answer to that question, but that would be an interesting one to examine. I was looking at death. Mainly, it's not my thing. That's my thing.
Keeping
jam.
it morbid. Yeah, it's a real thing, and what bugs me about it, to go back to just the Hummer and a technological solution to a systematic human problem. It seems like, you know, someone has been like, all right, here's a problem. Here's how I can profit off of solving it instead of just here's how we can work together to actually solve it.
Yeah.
Without needing to invent something completely new, invest billions or trillions of dollars into it, you know, and have this sort of capitalistic solution to it.
Spain has come up with some really interesting solutions. And their socialist government. But mainly, they have this sort of plan they call the 80-20 plan, where they want like 80% of the traffic to run on 20% of the roadways and 20% of the traffic to run on 80% of the roadways. So mainly, you know, people are driving long distances on the highway and then parking and taking transport into urban centers. And then they've also really limited, I think the top speed limit on surface roads is something like 40 or 50 kilometers an hour, which is like nothing. 30 miles an hour or something like that.
And their highways are so nice. They're so smooth. Oh.
Yeah. So it's things like that. You know, these are the things. It's about roadway design. It's about sort of intelligent applications of urbanism. You know what I mean? And you can't have the same. You can't have if you have a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit in an area where there's going to be a lot of people crossing the road, and
you're going to have some nasty ones.
You're going to have some collisions.
Yeah.
But the speed limits are all set. When all of this, especially out here, was undeveloped
LA
land.
is a uniquely difficult one because it's so spread and because we have such shitty public transit.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like an impossible one to solve because you're just not going to stop people from driving places. Like, you're just fucking not. Like, e-bikes help, but, there's not a good way to get from the beach cities to Hollywood or to downtown. Like, unless you're really, really going to invest in elevated trains in a fucking enormous way, you're just not going to get people out of their cars.
Yeah, it is a real challenge. And I'm a huge proponent of public transportation. I almost never drive in New York where I live, except if I'm leaving town. But I've never taken the train in LA. To be perfectly honest,
it's a shitty train.
Right?
It's just not a good. It's not a good train. I mean, you would if it was useful. I'm sure. I would if it was useful. But even for me, I mean, and I'm one person, so whatever. But for me, if I wanted to take the train downtown, I would have to either drive or bike, or it's really too far to walk. But it's about 4.5. How far is it from my house to that Santa Monica train station?
A couple miles.
It's about
sure.
3.5 to 4 miles. So that's not a practical, and there's nowhere to park a car once I get there. So if I'm going to get in the car, I might as well just drive it downtown. Yep. And if I'm going to bike, it's like a whole other thing. It's not short enough. But what do you? But in New York City, fucking trains, 100%.
Yeah,
it was designed that way.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do you park press cars at your place and then drive out of town and? What do you do for testing cars?
They bring them to me at my apartment, and then I have a place in the country, so I'll drive it up there, or they park it at the garage, and I take it when I leave town or something like that. But that's the general practice. Is just there's the route that I take to get upstate, which is about 125 miles, has a really nice combination of roads that give me a good feel for the car.
Do you do the Hudson way, or is it the Connecticut way?
I'm over by the Delaware River. So
you go. So you're going west.
Yeah.
West. It's nice nice down there.
Yeah, it's real nice
down
over
by
there.
the Delaware Water Gap. Like,
north of there, but
yeah, there's really good roads out there.
Yeah, there's some fun roads up there.
Yeah. PA is underrated, and that part of New Jersey is definitely underrated for good roads.
There's some good roads.
Yeah.
And so, but while I've been here, it's been kind of fun. I've got some, my boyfriend and I, they loaned us this company, Vintage, by electric
the
bikes.
electrics. Oh, I've got one of those.
Oh, you have one of those?
It fucking rips.
Yeah,
It's
the one I
like,
have goes 40 miles an hour.
isn't it
It's
awesome?
fucking crazy. Yeah.
You go, this is like, this shouldn't be allowed, but I'm not giving it back.
Right, no, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way I've been feeling. So,
Dude, Vintage electric is badass.
Yeah,
Those things are great.
They're like really, really fast. It's kind of like actually a little scary.
Have you ridden it up the bike path yet on the beach?
No.
It's like
I haven't
riding a
taken it out here.
MotoGP bike in the canyons. It's crazy how
It's
fast
really
you're
funny
going.
to watch people's reactions to them because it looks like a beach cruiser. It looks like you shouldn't be going more than 5 miles an hour on it or whatever. And it's but yeah, you just sort of pedal and hit the throttle and this thing just takes off.
Goes. Did you get the special screw?
Yeah, the special screw.
key?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like but we're staying up on the top of the hills in Silver Lake, and so to get anywhere, you got to go. Going down is fine, but coming back up if you're walking or something like that is a pain. And it's you don't want to drive every time you want to grab
and
some
you also
chewing
don't
gum,
want to work out all the time,
Right.
So I understand.
Yeah.
I work out every single day, but it doesn't mean I want to work out on the way to
the
a
workout.
meeting.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've been taking
They
them
are
down.
great.
Yeah, they're really good and excellent for just running down to grab some takeout or to go to the gym or something like that. So that's been really fun.
The only thing I don't like about my Vintage electric is how expensive it looks.
Yeah.
And I get really nervous about locking it up places.
Yeah.
Nothing's happened, but it just makes me mentally, I don't want it out of my sight for too long.
Right.
Because it just looks like the kind of thing someone's going to see it and go, I'm cutting right through that motherfucking lock.
Right.
That, and as an owner of one, you go through brake pads a lot.
Oh,
because it's
interesting.
really fast and
Right.
it's really heavy.
Yeah.
And it's got probably the biggest, most effective set of bicycle brakes that you could buy. I mean, they're like these gnarly discs, but it doesn't matter. You just blast.
You go through them.
You go through brake pads like crazy because it's just, you're flying.
Yeah, and it's a heavy object. I know. I was trying to stop. I do this silly series when I'm out here on my Instagram called Elysian Parked because of cars. Just sort of park. We used to stay by Elysian Park, and so it sort of started there. But there's some
There
of
it
them.
is.
Oh, and there's me and Tal on the bikes as well.
He got the cargo holder on the back.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's clutch. You got to get the basket mounted to
like-
that, and then you're good to go.
I don't want the one that goes 40 miles an hour. He wanted the one that goes 26 miles an hour.
Oh, is his not the crazy one?
Not quite as fast.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah. Mine is just like that black one.
Yeah.
It fucking rules.
It really is. It's really shockingly fast and fun. And I tried them out once before. But I was coming down the hill in Mitchell terrain, like real steep hill down to Sunset yesterday to go grab some carry out. And I spotted a car that I wanted to take a picture of, and I was trying to stop on the hill, and I could not stop.
Oh,
I
boy.
could not stop.
Yeah.
I couldn't keep the bike stopped as well.
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was it really just wanted to
Silver Lake has
flip
really
over.
steep hills.
Yeah, there's some steep hills.
Did
there.
you see the fucking guy who jumped?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, I just can't believe this.
I mean, it's for the lulls.
Right.
You have to do it for the Instagram lulls.
It is really shocking.
It was a fucking rental.
Oh, it was a rental?
He rented it from Turo. Yeah.
LAPD put out a $1,000 bounty for people that
Really?
helped turn
They
them in.
figured
Let's
out-
call
they-
let's call him up. I
No,
could
they-
use a G.
They figured it out. They said no more tips. They're like, we know it's this guy.
Probably.
Because they found, everyone found him on his, he's like advertising that he's been doing it.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
It's stupid.
And he crashed into other cars too, right?
Yeah.
And just ran from the scene? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Took the plates off the car and then bounced.
And why then would you advertise that you're doing it? 'Cause
I don't
that
know if
makes you
he
seem
put the
cool.
video up or if others put the video
okay.
up of him, but he did some things online leading up to the incident.
Okay.
And then after the incident, it was other people's. It was not good.
No.
It was not good. But that's what the hills are like in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
In
It's
fact,
not-
that particular hill is the steepest road in Los Angeles.
I think it's the steepest residential street in the country,
Could
Baxter
be.
Street.
Yeah, it might be.
I remember because we stayed right off of Baxter Street one year when we were out here in the winter, and I had some McLaren, I can't remember which one it was, but just like coming over the crest of, I thought I was going to like high center it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get stuck.
A friend of mine lived on that road, and it was like getting into her driveway was one of the wonkiest angles ever. Oh, is this the top 10?
It's the 10th steepest road in the nation, and it's a 33% grade.
Wow.
That's steep,
Third
dude.
steepest in LA and
The
10th in
banking
nation.
at Daytona is 31. In case you're wondering if this is steeper than the banking at Daytona.
On I-70, when you go down into Denver, there's like a warning, and it says 8% grade, like
Yeah.
truckers downshift.
Yeah.
This is
There's one in Hawaii
30%.
that's 45%.
Wow, look at that. That's crazy.
Canton
I've been on
Avenue
that
in
road.
Pittsburgh is a 37. Wow. Eldred. Oh, yeah, Eldred Street. That's downtown, 33% also. So LA has got a bunch.
Bunch of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I walked up this
Can you
road
Google
once.
Maps where the fuck this one is in Honokaa, Hawaii? Honokaa? Waipo Street.
We should probably go there.
Yeah, we should. Fucking soapbox derby, bro. What island is this even on? I don't
It's a
even
big
know.
island.
It's
I've
Big Island?
I've been there. It's nice.
Have you?
You've been to that street?
Yep.
Really?
I had to walk up it. It was
Really?
yeah.
What for?
You crashed your Tesla
Junior
at
high
the bottom?
school trip.
Really?
Our 8th grade trip. Yeah.
Oh,
So
it was just like a thing you did? Was
we
walk
went,
up
we
the
walked
road?
down there and we stayed at some like rent. It was before Airbnb, but stayed like
Oh.
a yurt, and it rains a lot. It's a gorgeous place, Waiapio Valley, and then we had to walk back out, and all of us were like, "Are you serious?" And it was like it is a hike. It's just paved, but it is a hike. I mean, it's 30. It's whatever, 45%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty steep.
But
Can you click on can you get terrain, the terrain version of it instead of is that it right there? Waipo Valley Road? No
looks
street
like
view.
Google Earth has not been there. Like I don't think so.
Street view. Just trust us. It's
right,
fucking steep.
it's real steep.
33% in LA is pretty nuts, though. That's
Yeah,
really, really
That is
steep.
very steep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I guess it's kind of like a little bit of a shortcut, and they've put a bunch of signs on either side of the street now because they're like, just don't, you know what I mean?
Go slow.
Don't waze this way. Don't waze this way. You know.
There's a few shortcuts in this neighborhood in Mar Vista, which is just inland of Venice, and there's so many like neighborhood signs up that are like "Ways go home," and they in some cases they would buy, some neighborhoods would like buy phones and like put them all over the street to like mimic that there was traffic
Stop
there.
traffic, right.
Yeah. To make people go around, which I thought was a very interesting solution.
clever.
Yeah,
to
that's
that
just like
problem. It's pretty
we're
clever.
in for it with future hacks like this. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Cybersecurity and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where people just not be able to pass. Or I think you can register with Google Earth also that like a road is closed or that there's
that's-
construction or
that's a
something. So I
good
think
one.
people do that as well.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one.
People do that with the walking streets, like the stairs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, over in Silver Lake, that used to go down to the red line to the streetcar system, and those people that live near them will say, "Oh, it's not open. It's
Yeah.
not in repair," because they don't want people walking up and down. I guess
I live on a one-way street in Venice, and for the entire time I've lived there, it was super poorly marked and signed. And I would say that between 5 and 20 people per hour would drive the wrong way down it. Some of them at unbelievable rates of speed. 30, 50 miles an hour the wrong way. I mean, if you read about any one-way street in America where 20 people an hour went the wrong, fucking do something about this. And they finally, literally last week, they painted lines that created a single lane down the middle of the road, with yellow on one side, white on the other side. They made one side into a loading zone for trucks and deliveries and the other side for pedestrians and bikes, and painted big-ass white arrows down the middle of the thing. And I'm telling you, it solved the problem over fucking night.
Yeah.
I've seen maybe one car go the wrong way down. It's obviously a single lane road now, and it took them maybe 6 hours and one truck with paint to solve this problem. And it's amazing how well it worked.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like,
these are these analog solutions to the
clear
horrors of our digital
fucking
age, right?
signage, man. Like that's all it took.
Yeah.
You know, a couple cans of paint.
We've developed an app to tell people which streets are one-way streets. We're running our Series A. It's going to be really good.
Yeah, totally. So, on a more positive note,
Yes.
what have you been driving recently?
Oh, that's a good question.
Anything great?
Yeah,
You've got this V8 Vantage outside.
Yeah, I have the V8 Vantage convertible with me right now, which is pretty fun. I mean, I drove it here. That's all I've driven it. I drove it here from the east side on the highway. I haven't
It's
had
nice
much
as
time.
a convertible, though.
Yeah,
The convertible improves that experience of that car, I think.
I agree. I feel like that in general, and that might be a heresy for many people of your listeners or whatever. But like, I'd love a convertible in general. I just think there's, I'm not a big track guy. I'm not like trying to eke 11/10 of performance out of any car that I'm driving, and I think the structures are pretty rigid these days to the point where
if it's structurally good, I'm good with the convertible.
Yeah.
If you can still put your arm on the door and your hand on the window and feel the jiggle, then it's not gone very well. And there are some cars where you can, and some of them would shock you at their price points.
Oh yeah,
where that would still the current 8 Series BMW convert. It's like no.
Oh really?
No. And right up until and the even like, but when did the new Bentley GT come out? 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be a few years before that, but
the
it was
current gen Bentley GT, right up until the last gen Bentley GT, that was a jiggly fucker. The GTC, I was like, this is $250,000, man. This thing is jiggly, but it's fixed. They fixed it now. Yeah. But I'm with you. I like it. Yeah. It's beautiful weather here. I like a top-down car.
And when I'm here, it's like it's enjoyable. So speaking of that, I had the McLaren 765 LT.
Yeah, we get that in 2
Spider
weeks.
or whatever.
Bad shit, right?
Great. So much fun. And it's
a lot of car.
It's really a lot of car. Like I drove it. I took I was like, I had it. I said to my boyfriend, let's do like a little day trip today, while I have this car, because I only had it for a couple days. I was like, we could go up to Ojai, or we could go, I don't know, someplace in the mountains where we've never been before. And he was like, oh, I found this interesting road, and it's not that far away. And I was like, oh, that one looks good. It was Angeles Crest.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I've been on that road before.
I know this road.
I'm not sure you're going to like it that much.
Car's very good on that road.
Yeah, and he was like, well,
there's no like destination up there.
No, there was weirdly like an arts and crafts style house museum in La Cañada. That was built by one of the guys who helped develop the area or whatever, and then went on to become this. I ended up writing a story about this guy for the most part, because it's Frank Lanterman, and he was a Republican state representative, but he was one of the people who was responsible for getting smog equipment put on cars.
Oh, interesting.
In part because he helped to develop this valley, and then there was tons of smog, shockingly. So it's like this retrofit for a disaster that he had created. Anyway.
This wasn't the guy who was the unleaded fuel, like the leaded fuel guy, right?
No, that's someone else. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, right? It was a recent story about this guy who
Kipman's been writing about that guy.
Jamie
right?
Kipman. Okay, yeah. I just want to know if I was conflating the two.
Book-length manuscript, I think, about the history of lead and gasoline. He really does. It's a fascinating subject. But no, this was a different guy. This was this guy, Frank Lanterman, who was a local congressional representative. Anyway, he had grown up in this house that his grandfather had built. It's a concrete and steel arts and crafts style house.
Interesting.
Yeah, a giant thing. And then he was a professional, in addition to being a congressperson, he was a professional organist and like played the organ at like the giant silent movie houses.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, here's the house, Lanterman house.
Yeah, there's a Lanterman house. And so he had gotten this organ that had been taken out of some giant theater that was being demolished in San Francisco. And it was meant to fill like, the sound was meant to fill like a
church
22 or 3,000 seat auditorium. And he built this weird auditorium in the
in his house? The organ's in the fucking house?
He had built it in the cutout in the atrium of the house.
Oh my God.
And it had like 50 seats. And it would, the tour guide said
neighbors must fucking
it would
love.
It would shake the earth for like a half mile around the house, like when it played. A giant Wurlitzer.
Oh my God, that's like the ultimate one-up of like my neighbor in Venice installed, like he had a real like Burning Man phase, and he put a DJ booth and like a club level PA in his house, and the neighbors would call the cops on him like all the fucking time. Not and ironically, not because he was bumping music at 3 o'clock in the morning. He would play. It was like fucking Andy Dufresne. He'd play opera at like 11 a.m. at a volume that was like you could hear for blocks. And like the cops would come to his house and be like, "Sir,
you got to turn down the opera."
Yeah. And he was like, "It's 11 a.m. I thought I could be as loud as I want." He's like, "Not that fucking loud."
Right. There are still noise regulations in effect, I think. Yeah.
Or a pipe organ in your house would be pretty next level.
A Wurlitzer. Like it was literally like this, it weighed like 36,000 pounds or something like that.
That's awesome.
And it was also impossible to keep it in tune. So
of course.
It was like off.
You need a full staff to run some shit like that.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy.
Yeah. So it ended up, I mean, the car was great. I didn't drive probably as quickly as I would have if Tal hadn't been in the car.
Yeah, passenger limiter.
Yeah. Which is fine, you know what I mean? But he doesn't like to drive fast, and he doesn't really like convertibles. So it's not the ideal.
He's with the right person, is what you're saying.
Doesn't like stiff suspension. Doesn't like carbon buckets.
Yeah.
Right.
My wife gets motion sickness, so I literally can't take her on anything
on a drive.
We can go on a road trip, and I taught her how to drive for road trip driving, how to like set up passes and where it's safe to cruise at 100 and shit like that. We did like 3,500 miles in an Urus.
Wow.
And by the time we got back to LA, I was like, "Honey, you need to slow down now. We're back in the city. You can't set up a pass at 135." But if we were going in the canyons for 5 minutes, she's like, "I'm going to throw up." So that's kind of a bummer.
He's got a solid stomach, so he didn't barf, so that was good. But so we had that.
But that's pretty much the fastest road car that money can buy.
Yeah,
right now it's
really
insane.
It's shocking. Yeah, I couldn't believe it actually. And it was, as I like to say, it was too much car for me.
It's too much car for almost everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I happened to run into Jethro Bovington last weekend. He was in town filming that very car.
Oh, right.
And after we went to Cars and Coffee, me and my friend Thad were in the Aventador Ultime, the SVJ touring, and we were going up PCA. We were going to get oysters in Ventura, and so which I really recommend. If you like oysters, the Jolly Oyster in Ventura is worth the drive.
Okay, I'll do it.
That'll be a fun one for you, and. It's right on the beach. It's like an oyster shack, and it's BYO.
That sounds perfect.
It's fucking great. It was really cool.
Okay, right on.
Handily endorsed.
Okay.
But Jethro was in front of us on PCH, and at 60 miles an hour, he smashes the throttle and does a fucking enormous burnout in this McLaren at highway speeds.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was like
this is what this thing is for.
It was it was not. There's no like power curve. You know what I mean? It's just like this indomitable force. You know what I mean? That at any speed, at 100, it was like that.
Yeah. Hard to go back from something like that.
Yeah, but it was good that I only had it for a couple of days, so that was fine. I didn't get too accustomed to it.
Yeah.
What else?
Imagine getting accustomed to something like that.
No, it was unaccustomable.
Yeah, because there's people like that like the community that like tunes GTRs.
Right.
I drove a guy's like 1,100 horsepower GTR once, and he had it done like that for like a month. He was daily driving this car, which you could do.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to send it back."
And
I go,
more power.
Yeah. He goes, "I'm going to go for like 15." I go, how boring is this car that 1,100 horsepower doesn't make it exciting enough for you?
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine being bored of that McLaren. I can't imagine getting used to it and going and saying I need more.
No, I can't either. But who knows? In 2 years they'll have another one that
probably
has 10 zillion horsepower or something like that.
Yeah.
Or it'll be.
It's not the most powerful car they sell. That Speedtail's got more.
Right.
I haven't had to go in one of those.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's certain cars I just feel like it's probably not a good idea. I'm not that good of a driver.
They're easy to drive.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, as long as you don't get in over your head, they're pretty easy to drive.
Yeah.
They've done a pretty good job at that.
No, it's true. I felt like, oh yeah, there's me up at the top of a
closed Newcomb's Ranch.
Yeah.
One day.
Someone bought it, someone told me. The
rumor is that it's been bought, but it will take, it's going to take a decade to fucking develop it.
Right. Yeah. How do you even get any material up there?
27 miles each way.
Operation Donkey Drop.
I
You got to get
at buying it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
you know, I wouldn't. I'd have to get investors. I wouldn't be able to. But I had an idea that I called the Canyon Club, which is pretty self-explanatory. It would be a car and motorcycle resort on this property because it's 10 acres. It's the whole hillside.
Oh, wow.
But the property was very, very expensive. I mean, just the property was extremely expensive, considering there's basically nothing of value there. And you know, I don't know anything about hotels, and you know, I know parking. I don't know anything about fucking hotels and hospitality. And so I started doing math, and I was like, I thought about every truck that came here to build this. And I was like, imagine every one of those trucks had to go 27 miles up a fucking hill.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the stones for it.
Yeah.
The guy who I think is the buyer
is a billionaire.
Is fucking loaded, so loaded, and doesn't really care.
Right.
And
then it's just like a fun thing for you and your friends. You know?
And I'll be a customer. I'll happily enjoy it.
Exactly. And what is it going to be? Any idea? Is it going to be like a
it's going to be
restaurant or
basically
a hotel or
what I described,
okay,
with a restaurant and some cabins and a retail place. And this person is, if it's who I think it is, and I believe it is, they're affiliated with a boutique car company, and they would have a showroom for those products. And I'm sure manufacturers would want to rent it out to have events there.
Yeah.
Vanderhall Venice, is that who bought it?
Vanderhall. You ever tried one of them?
I had one for I think about 3 minutes. I took it out of my driveway. I drove it into Elysian Park. This is that little 3-wheeled thing or whatever, right? Yeah. I drove it into Elysian Park. I immediately got pulled over because the police academy is there. I immediately got pulled over by a cop, and they were like, "Do you have a motorcycle license?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "Do you have a helmet?" I was like, "No." They said I didn't need one. And they're like, "Where do you live? We're going to take you in," or something. I was like, my house is right there. They're like, "Take this thing back to your house and don't drive it again without a helmet." So then I called the guys and I was like, "Why didn't you guys tell me that I needed a motorcycle license and a helmet?" And they're like, "Oh, you don't. The cop was wrong." And I was like, well, then maybe you should have at least told me where the registration was.
Defense.
You know what I mean? I didn't know where. There's no glove box. It turns out there's some sort of special leather pocket behind the seat or something like that.
Well, I drove one for a day, and trust me, it was for the best. It was not good. 3 wheels are worse than 4, no matter what.
Yeah.
You only do 3 wheels because you don't want to spend the money to do 4 wheels.
4 wheels. Yeah.
And if you're going to do 3 wheels, a front-wheel drive 3-wheeled vehicle is not the dynamic experience you're looking for, I assure you.
Yeah.
A Morgan 3-wheeler is bad, but it's charmingly bad.
Right.
It's like flying a Spitfire bad. This is like all the upside of a Chevy Aveo and all the downside of a fucking 3-wheeler. It's not good.
I once drove the... you guys know the Lane Museum in in Nashville. So Jeff commissioned
they have some weird shit.
It's a really weird, amazingly weird shit.
Yeah.
Nothing but weird shit.
Yeah.
And Jeff Lane, the guy who owns it, is amazing. Just the nicest person, and super generous, and a great resource, and really interesting to talk to about cars. But he commissioned a reproduction of Buckminster Fuller's Dymaxion.
Oh yeah,
that he had built. Exactly to spec, and it has
Is the original still exist?
I think there might be
there's one right
or something like that.
Because I've seen one. I think it was at the Peterson, but it might have been the Lane reproduction.
Yeah.
Or it's the fucking weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it is. It's, and now I'm trying to remember where the next one is DY.
Is it? Oh, it's alphabetical.
Yeah, it's alphabetical. But Dymaxion was.
They have so many cars. It's all alphabetical, and there are many pages.
Yeah. But the Dymaxion, I can't remember if I think it's the wheel.
It's front wheel driving, but rear wheel steering.
Right, and the engine is also in the back. I think. Like, whatever it is, it's like the worst possible combination. In fact, when Bucky Fuller was demonstrating it in Chicago, I think at the World's Fair back in the day, it was hailed as like a safety car. It rolled and killed someone. You know what I mean? Like, I think it killed one of the people that was on board. This is like the
passenger compartment of a blimp.
It really is.
Out the balloon,
it actually is.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like a dirigible.
Did you drive it?
I did drive it.
Really?
Yeah. I drove it on.
Is it as awful as it looks?
It was terrible to drive. I mean, absolutely terrible. It followed every meandering path in the roadway or whatever, every surface.
Three-wheelers, you can't straddle a pothole.
Right.
Pick a wheel is going in.
And you can't straddle the curvature
crown,
of the road, the crown of the road. So you're
the ass is waggling
just
around.
going all over the place.
Let's see, where is that engine? That engine looks like it's in the back, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's in the back. It's like a flathead Ford engine or something crazy like that. It's in the back, and then
fucking wonky.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it was kind of amazing. You know what I mean? Just to drive.
I would want to have a go
crazy
for
dream,
sure.
You know
I'd want to
I mean?
have a go. Yeah.
Well, get down to the lane or
How
find
many seats are in here? Because I can see
11.
6. 11.
Is it really? It allegedly seats 11, but it's kind of got a few seats in the front and then a few seats and then kind of some benches. It's a crazy thing. It has a passive air conditioning system where you put a block of ice in the dashboard and it blows air over it.
I've done that before in like shit boxes. Use some dry ice.
Yeah,
good to
some
go.
Ice in there. But yeah, that's three-wheelers we have driven. But yeah, that one was a really crazy one.
They have. I mean, respect for trying something, but
no, absolutely.
If you're like good at math, how do you not know that that's not going to work?
Right, that's not going to work at all. I don't know. I think it was more just Fuller had this system of. Like, he believed in the system of sleep where he only slept like 2 hours at a time, but like at 2 different times of the day or something weird like that. So I think he was just like fucking crazy from like sleep deprivation.
Well, amphetamines were legal back then. So, they'd wear off and you'd sleep, quote, and then you'd wake up and
take some more amphetamines.
Take some more snuff, and then you'd keep building your dirigible.
Right, there you go. Car number 1 was destroyed in a fire. Car number 2 survived and is at the National Auto Museum in Reno, Nevada. That's where I saw it.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's actually a neat little museum. Car number 3 was cut up for scrap in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is
a lot of accidents. Car number 1 crashed.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
It was it was literally like it was hard to not have an accident while driving it. We were on like a closed stretch of the what was it, like the Blue Ridge Parkway or one of those parkways down there.
Really?
Natchez Trace, maybe something like that. And it was just, it was a horror.
You drove it on a road like with curves in it.
Yeah, like a real road. Yeah,
oh, no,
it was
that
terrifying.
Seems very sketchy.
Some story. I can't remember who I wrote the story for. Maybe The Drive back in the day. But they do this thing at the lane, or they did for a period of time as a fundraiser where they would. You would pay, and then they would let you drive. Like all the cars drive. Oh, yeah. They would let you drive the cars, and they did a few rallies and stuff like that as well.
Did it
Jason and I were there together.
Yeah. Oh, here's the story.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh my God! Look at that. You're actually sitting a little further back in it than I thought. I thought you would have. I thought it was a little closer to the front windshield.
It's a convertible.
God, that view out the front.
Yeah,
must be
it's got
amazing,
like a Webasto kind of roof, you know.
What? Wow, that's awesome. It's a rollback.
Yeah. It snaps back. It's wood framed. He had to have it. I think he had it built by someone in like Czechoslovakia or something like that. Like you could only find like the proper people to build it in some very bizarre
place. It looks like
place.
A submarine. I mean, there's so many things that inspired this. What a strange vehicle. The interior of this wooded frame is nice.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really beautiful.
It reminds me of like a World War II, bomber thing. Mm-hmm. 85 horsepower, flathead Ford V8, 30 miles a gallon.
Allegedly.
He
also said it could go 1120 miles an hour.
Oh my God, imagine trying that shit.
Oh my God. Going like 20 miles an hour was like one of the most terrifying things that has ever happened. Yeah, there's me driving
so
it.
funky. That's crazy, man. Yeah. Good for Jeff Lane for spending the money on that.
I agree. He's someone that should be honored in our community because he was really committed to finding the weird stuff and bringing that to people's attention. And
what else did Buckminster Fuller do? He was domes, right?
Geodesic
domes, yeah.
Yep, he did the geodesic dome. And
every time I see one of those dome houses like off the fucking 14 freeway, I'm like, God, I want to Airbnb one of them places.
Oh, yeah. It seems like it would be fun. And I think it's one of those things, like like a tiny house or whatever,
Yeah.
where you're like, this is a great idea, and then you get in it and you're like, I want to fucking kill myself.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like I'm
Up
in a
Malibu,
terrarium.
There's
Yeah.
a pyramid for sale. Straight up. It's off Piuma. You can see it from the fucking road.
Really? Are
Yeah.
you pulling up the listings, Zach?
There is, if you just Google, go to Zillow and look up pyramid.
Pyramid house?
Yeah, it's a fucking pyramid.
Is
like,
it made of stone?
It's like stucco.
Oh,
It's
wow.
an Egyptian look. It looks.
Is it from like the Egyptian craze in the 20s
No,
or
look
whatever?
at this fucking thing.
Oh wow.
Malibu Pyramid House.
Oh wow.
It's actually, what's crazy is that it's actually kind of dope.
Yeah.
Like in a
Who designed
funky.
it? It has a little bit
I don't
of like
know,
a,
but like
of a,
it
of
seems
a
like,
Lautner kind of feel to it. But
yeah, it does. Like it's almost like mid mod in the inside.
Yeah.
But it's fucking weird as hell.
it's on top of a mountain. Wow,
Yeah.
that is bizarre.
And it's actually not. Was the Zillow listing up there? It wasn't as expensive
No, it
as
says
you would think.
3.1 million or something like that.
And then it's got those sort of round rooms.
Oh yeah, of course.
Off the side,
And
and it
it's-
has an amazing view.
I bet. We should get that.
But you can
turn
see
that
it from
into
Piuma.
Right. We should
That-
get a tour of that. We'll show up in
should.
a fancy car or something. They'll think we're for real.
3.1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, not that 3.1 million isn't a lot of money. It is, but to live, look at that room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an incredible room.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about a villain's lair. You have to paint it black though, I think.
Oh, like Luxor.
Right.
Fucking crazy. I'd like camo it up or something. I'd want it to be like invisible in the trees.
Oh, or
'cause
mirror.
It really
Right,
stands out.
mirror it.
Yeah.
There's one of those houses. I was out in Joshua Tree last week.
Oh,
and there's
the mirror
the
house.
mirror house.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
I've seen
it's
that thing.
invisible kind of. It's
Yeah.
so weird.
I remember seeing the article
Yeah.
on that. Yeah.
I didn't stay there.
Joshua Tree is like where people go to build strange
Yeah,
shit.
you would think that would be there. That
It
pyramid.
looks like
you
it,
know?
doesn't
They
it?
should
Yeah.
build a pyramid there, like but out of hay bales or something.
Malibu's weird because it's like 1/3 just very rich people, 1/3 like hippies with too much money, and then 1/3 like libertarian gun nuts.
Oh, yeah.
Like where you're like, what the fuck is that guy doing back there? Like
Yeah.
that guy's definitely making like pressure cooker bombs for sure. You know?
Right, fences
Hey
made
man,
out of.
all I'm saying is there are good people on both sides of that Charlotte thing, okay?
It is nuts. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
that's
not what
just-
you think Malibu is.
No,
but
I
it
know.
is.
That's what's kind of exciting about California and being out in Southern California in general. Is it's just like it is crazy
Well,
out
that shit
here.
got settled like 50 years ago. But the first people to go there, before it became what it is, were probably just like, I just want to get away from the city. I fucking hate these people. And,
Yeah.
they bought it, and then it grew around them and like, God damn it.
I know.
Stay-
This is my right. Exactly.
Surfing, what the
That's right.
fuck is this?
I could kill a surfer from up here with my crossbow. Right.
I bet you the percentage of crossbow owners in those hills is a lot higher than you'd think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
It's in the double digits for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, it's like there's a little bit of the quality. A friend of mine lived in Garberville, up in the Humboldt
Yeah.
County. And this was like 20 years ago or whatever, and it was like people had moved up there to grow weed essentially and to get away from everyone. But the hillside that she lived on, strangely, it had been developed by a group of gay guys who had left San Francisco and they wanted to move up. This was sort of at the tail end of the 60s and the early 70s when things had just gone
Starting
sour.
their own country.
Yeah. They're like, we're going to take over like the local, town board or whatever.
yeah.
And they got up there, and I think there was some success in sort of moving things forward to create this sort of gay commune. But then HIV happened, and like all these folks, like no one ended up surviving. Anyway.
Oh wow,
So
Jesus.
yeah, it's a dark story.
That took a
Right, it's like right.
sharp downward turn.
But there was
I
still
thought you were
this
going to tell
crazy.
me the weed growers fucking mowed them down with AKs or something.
No, but
which is somehow less dark
Right,
than they
that's
all
why I'm
died of
laughing.
AIDS.
Matt's like, oh, I thought it was going to be a lighthearted
Right, yeah,
thing where they
exactly.
get
Right,
shot.
just-
Yeah, I thought just a lighthearted mass murder,
No,
but
but there
instead
was-
they all died of AIDS. Like, fuck.
It was such a dark place up there. It just had like a weird quality to like the light. It felt totally haunted. And my friend, her husband was an attorney, and he ended up representing one neighbor against another neighbor in a some sort of conflict. And they were out of town, and the neighbor that he was opposing legally burned their house to
Oh
the
my
ground.
God, really?
Yeah.
I hear crazy shit about Humboldt. I mean,
Yeah.
there's been documentaries about the farms and the
Oh, right.
fucking guns
Yeah.
and militias. and
Yeah,
all
people
kinds
are
of
really,
crazy stuff
really,
up there.
really paranoid.
Yeah.
Maybe it's less so
all the weed.
now because I know. I was thinking, I wonder why. Might be less so now with things being legal.
Yeah,
but
you can
maybe
buy a
worse,
weed farm on Zillow.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've seen.
I put a pyramid
I've
on
seen-
it, right?
I mean, if I had a weed farm, I'd definitely put a fucking pyramid on that.
Oh yeah.
Is that
sure.
is that an effective method of construction? Like,
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. It's like, you think about like the geodesic dome or whatever, like, yeah, maybe there's certain efficiencies, but like living in a house that's entirely made of glass is probably not easy to heat and cool. But I don't know if a pyramid
Pyramid's
is or
probably
not.
very strong. Isn't the triangle
Pyramids
like,
are
the
strong.
strongest
Yeah,
shape
for
we
sure.
have? So
Yeah.
I mean, it would stand to reason to be very sturdy against things falling on it.
I did see in one of those like amazing homes shows in Sweden. There's someone in northern Sweden who built a fucking full greenhouse around their regular house.
Oh.
And so here they are in Sweden,
Right.
It's fucking snow outside, and they have like a lush rainforest basically in their fucking house. I'm sure Zach will find it.
Sweden house.
There it is. Look at that thing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's a full house in a greenhouse.
Oh, wow.
It's so
Yeah.
sick. Like,
That makes sense in
it's
Sweden in
really,
certain ways,
really cool.
Maybe
Yeah.
less so in
that
Malibu.
bottom picture. I think one of them there's like because their regular house has this rooftop deck. There it is. And,
there's the roof deck
The
on the right
rooftop
there.
deck is inside the greenhouse, and they're just like chilling. That looks like it's mid construction. But it's totally winter outside, snow, and they are like
They're like
in
eating
this-
bananas off their tree.
Yeah,
Right.
they have tropical fruit growing in there. It's crazy.
I like that idea. It makes sense for Sweden, maybe less so
Yeah.
for like Joshua Tree.
Oh no, you
Right.
just
you just roast.
you go outside and you like an ant. You just evaporate.
I was doing this story about these giant indoor farms that this company is building in Tennessee, I think. It's either Kentucky or Tennessee. They're called App Harvest, and
Oh,
they have
yeah.
like this. It's like the largest enclosed, glass covered space in the
Yeah,
world or
yeah.
something like that. But this is the plan. We're gonna have to move all of
All
our farming
farming indoors,
indoors because the weather is going to be too unreliable.
There's a really cool startup I just saw that's doing like turning shipping containers into contained like vertical farms, and you basically just order one and they come and fucking drop it off.
they
and it's
pot
like a
it,
totally enclosed, farm, and you can grow like quite a lot of food in one. It's like they're installing them they have the shipping container one, and they're also going to like office buildings.
Oh, wow.
And they're putting the vertical farming inside office buildings, which is really, really neat.
Yeah, well, we've
Seems
got to
like a
do
good
something with
use
all
of-
this office space now. Like, what the hell is going to happen
Yeah,
with
in
all
New
of it?
York, like what's like what is like Midtown like right now? I
don't
haven't been
know,
to New York
yeah.
City in 2 years.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I live downtown, but they've been building all. Where I live downtown is very office centric.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like the former Printers Row where all the printing companies were, or whatever. And it's all tech startups and advertising agencies and stuff like that. And it's during the pandemic it was weird because they changed the zoning in the neighborhood, and so. First of all, there were no people around. Second of all the stores were closed because it's like all lunch shops for serving the office trade. And then third of all, because they changed the zoning, all these buildings had been demolished and they were building all these new office towers for some mysterious reason. I mean, it's just, long-term plans or whatever. So like people were gone, stores were closed, and then like the familiar buildings were gone. So it was like wandering through this really, really weird landscape. But I think office stuff is sort of starting to happen a little bit more in New York, but still, most people aren't going back to the office. I think if they don't have to, and you don't get the sense of it here. I don't think in the same way as you do in New York, where there's just like foot traffic or not foot traffic.
Yeah, here it's very tough to tell. I mean, the biggest difference for me personally is my neighborhood, Venice, which was Google and Snapchat and all these the tech companies that had major real estate portfolios have given them up.
Oh wow.
Those companies are either pure work from home or sharply slanted towards work from home, and so a lot of the kind of newly rich tech bro people that had to live in Venice because of that. Now they can live anywhere they want.
Wherever, right.
And so that has negatively affected our real estate market
Interesting.
alongside, some other factors, but we've noticed that as being a factor for sure.
Wow. Yeah, one of the big buildings that's being built, they're just sort of finishing in my neighborhood, is a huge Google office building that, it's like the most expensive transaction that they've done since the pandemic or something like that, like a $2 billion purchase and renovation of this and expansion of this huge office building. And I guess they're planning on having people come back, or something like that.
This Google thing seems like a long play.
Right.
I don't know. It seems like our data might be worth something.
I think they have a plan of some sort. But I don't know what's going to happen with all that stuff. But maybe turn it all into farms. That's a good idea. Feed the city.
I mean, it would be cool. It would be. I'd like to see. Imagine one of those giant towers is just a huge
farm.
Be cool.
Yeah.
It'd be a big carbon sink too. It'd be cool.
Yeah, I like this idea. All right, let's make it happen.
I like when they put plants on the outside of those buildings too, like we see in China and the Philippines a lot. It's really, really neat.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
You guys should plant this thing up.
Oh, I should.
Yeah. Maybe greenhouse it too.
We thought about putting grass and plants on the roof. But actually, it would have brought the structure of the roof into it. You would have needed more like load because the weight. Turns out grass and dirt and shit is really heavy, especially if it gets wet. And you would have had water. We would have had to do it. I thought about it. I was like, can we put some grass up there? Like, it might be kind of cool. And like it didn't. It just didn't pan out, unfortunately. Yeah, like that shit.
That's what I want.
Vertical farming movement is growing like that. Those buildings are bad fucking ass.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah. Look at that. Isn't that's amazing looking?
Yeah. That's like New York in like 2055 anyway. Like that's all just like taken over.
That's either utopian or I Am Legend.
Right.
Like we'll see what's going on there.
Yeah, we have no way of knowing.
Yeah.
Where the future goes.
Are you excited for, we feel like we've talked about a lot of negative things on this show today. Are you excited about anything that's going on in cars right now?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think we were talking about sort of the negative aspects of large electric pickups and SUVs. I think the diversification of product offerings in the electric category, in the EV category, is overall a positive thing. I think we need to get away from internal combustion, on an elemental level. So the idea of offering vehicles that people are compelled by, I think is a cool thing. And I think it's exciting to see so many different electric vehicles coming our way. So I'm kind of excited about that. And I think, drawbacks aside, overall, I think the electrification thing is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it is in certainly dense urban environments for air quality. It remains to be seen if we're actually solving a problem. We're just outsourcing our dirty bits to countries we don't have to look at.
Right.
Which is the most American thing we could possibly do.
Yeah,
we're really good at that.
The cobalt boom in Africa or whatever.
We're really good at that.
Disastrous.
But I mean, I do find those vehicles to be very pleasant to drive. So as someone who should just stick to cars,
right?
They are mostly very, very pleasant. And have you done any actual electric off-roading yet? Because that is quite nice.
Yeah, a little bit. Right. I had like the Jeep the 4XE or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I took that on this little trail that's not too far from my place upstate. And yeah, it seems like a great use scenario for that. It's quiet.
Silent off-roading is lovely.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, I think a lot of people like the noise and destruction of vehicles when they're off-roading.
It's not off-roading if you ain't fucking shit up.
Right, exactly.
Am I right?
It's not exactly my type, my style, but so yeah, I think those things are kind of fun. I think that's a neat area of use. And another thing I'm excited about, I think, is sort of electric like delivery and industrial vehicles.
Yeah.
I think this is a big thing that we need to make change with. I did a story about electric school buses recently.
Oh, that could be a good one.
And it's perfect because they sit for long periods of time. They go short distances.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stop and start driving, so there's a lot of
same route every day.
Same route every day.
Predictable.
Totally predictable. And then also there's kids on board. You know what I mean? So they're not breathing in diesel fumes constantly while these things are idling or driving around. And so yeah, it's like a lot of positives. And I think the same can be said in a lot of ways for short delivery vehicles.
Mail trucks.
Yeah, where my apartment
trucks.
is in the city is right by the UPS and FedEx depot. And, I haven't seen any. There's some hybrids and maybe some CNG cars in their fleet. I haven't seen any electrics really yet. But, delivery traffic had already gone up, exponentially prior to the pandemic. And now it's just like skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's insane.
These things drive very short distances, stop constantly, idle constantly. Like electric makes a lot of sense. For them, especially as that expands. And I know that they're investing in it, but
and how to get enough power to one of those facilities to charge all those vehicles is a fair question.
Yeah.
But it's not an impossible one.
No, I mean electricity is pretty readily available. The quantities is another issue, but it's not something that we can't solve for. And I think it's not something we can't solve for in a cleaner way than just putting in a coal generator or something like that.
No, it's as someone who is installed, I have to deal with all this heavy machinery out here. I've had to learn a little bit. I'm not an engineer or anything like it, but I've had to learn a little bit about power requirements and how much electricity I'm allowed to have and how much I can use versus keep in and it's when you start to charge at faster than a level 2, it becomes a pretty big deal. But if you're really just doing level 2s, which is like 10 to 12 kilowatts an hour, you can have a bunch of them.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking a vehicle who does under 100 miles a day and then sits for 8 to 10 hours, that's enough. That's totally enough. You don't need DC fast charging.
Yeah.
If you need DC, now it's a whole other fucking game.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult.
No,
you need
that
so
makes sense.
much power to run a single, my new building, this whole building here, only has 400 amps, which is nothing for something of this size. And in fact, we had to have a special circuit built so that we can only run one car lift at a time.
Oh, wow.
Now, fortunately, we have a pretty slow turnover here. It's not constant in and out.
Right. It's not
and
like
you
my garage in New York.
Yeah,
right?
you've been here an hour and a half. You haven't heard a car lift.
Well, I have
yet.
these earmuffs on.
If we ran a lift, you'd hear it.
Okay.
But we only have to run one at a time. If it was a shopping mall in New York City, that'd be a different story.
Yeah.
But my new building has 1,600 amps, which is amazing. It's 4 times as much power. So I don't have to do this funky engineering. But I was like, ooh, 1,600 amp. I was like, how about a DC fast charger?
Right.
What about a 50? Can I get a 50? Not a 150, like just a 50. And they were like, that's going to be 900 amps.
Oh my God.
To run that one charger. So that's the scale.
Right.
Like this entire building uses just over half the power of one of those fuckers.
Wow.
That's the scale at which DC fast charging is.
Jeez.
So to integrate that in an urban environment, it's a lot of power.
Yeah.
And most
true.
places just can't handle that kind of thing. So it's not an insurmountable challenge, but it's a real
It's
one.
a challenge, yeah.
If you want fast charging. But level 2 gets you pretty far.
Yeah. I don't know how much charging the entire UPS fleet needs, I wonder.
I don't know. Probably
over in New York, right?
Probably a bunch, but they're not going very far. So, you know, maybe it's 50, 60 miles a day, right?
Right.
Per
and
truck.
A lot of stop and start, so you can get some regen in there maybe.
Hopefully.
I don't know. I'm not an electrical engineer.
Zach, do we have questions from the Patreon? We do. All right. Some of the fans have sent us some questions on the Patreon. Of course, if you would like to ask us questions on the show, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. You can catch the live show. You can get an ad-free listening experience, and you can also get early access to episodes. Don't have to wait until Tuesday or Thursday. You get it now. That's at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Let's get to them. Jack Riley, Brett, did you go to college? And if so, what was your major? Is getting a degree, presumably in journalism, is a kickstart to a career similar to yours?
Yeah, I did go to college. I studied creative writing. I was a fiction writer. And
that's probably helpful.
Yeah. So all of my stories are mostly fiction at this point anyway. No, that's
Whether
that's
intentionally
not true.
or unintentionally.
Exactly. But no, I mean, I definitely come at this auto writing thing from the writer perspective. I was, always loved cars, but I got to put those things together. So I think that was definitely a bonus for me, and I don't think I would have had the success in my career that I have had if I wasn't trained as a writer.
Yeah, that helps. I don't know. I don't know a lot of folks who write about cars that have actual journalism degrees. I don't think that is as important. I mean,
Yeah.
Are you a good writer? And if not, can you get a degree that will help you be a good writer?
Yeah.
But I studied photography, which helps with making videos and things like that.
Absolutely.
Taking center cards, and I can shoot some of my own pictures for the car reviews. But creative writing, that probably is a good one too.
Yeah. That was helpful, I would say.
But it doesn't help you, get the job. It just helps you do the job. Prashan says, Brett, I drive a manual 2015 Honda Fit, and you're the only person who seems to understand this car. Horse shit. I understand that car. Honda Fit's a great car.
Yeah, it's a great car. I think, Why
are you the only person who understands it?
I don't know.
Is it Honda Fit not an appreciated
Dude,
car?
I've talked about how Sarah's Honda Fit has better steering feel than our E46 M3s do.
Yeah.
It's a great car.
It's just really easy to break into, as his girlfriend has learned.
Has it been broken into a few times?
It's soup's easy. It's real easy, apparently. A couple of seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
All right.
they don't even damage it. They just close it and they lock it for you, which is nice.
That's nice. What
Yeah.
do they take? What does she keep in there?
Oh, they
I'm
take
gonna
credit
break
cards.
into it.
They take credit
They
cards.
always
Okay.
take credit cards.
Yeah. Why do you keep credit cards in your car?
She doesn't anymore.
Oh, okay, good.
The second time they were hiking in the Angeles forest.
Okay.
And so the wallet and stuff were in the car. It's not like it was at the crib.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming you.
I didn't think you were. I thought you were blaming her. And I'll tell her how you feel.
Racing Riley says, Brett and Matt, how do you plan out your schedules given the more freelance type of work?
I'm always working, so that's pretty much it. I like being a freelancer. I love being a freelancer. I've been doing it for almost 25 years in various fields, and 13 as an automotive journalist. But I think you just have to be a little bit of a self-starter. You have to be able to move things along, and I'm fortunate in my current situation in that I have a lot of great outlets and a lot of great editors that I work with, and I can sort of turn the tap on higher or lower depending on what my schedule is upcoming. So if I know I'm going to be taking a week off, or something like I did last week to go out to the desert, I can arrange, my deadlines and my schedule, just like not pitch as many stories or say no to things or whatever to keep it on schedule.
Yeah. I use Google Calendar.
Oh. Yeah.
And it's, I have my problem is I always feel like, and this is Spinelli's fault, I always feel like every gig could possibly be my last. I feel like at any moment, no one could ever ask me to work again.
Yeah.
And so I probably take on more than I need to. I probably, my social life takes the brunt of the hit there. I will not be able to do things because I have to work, or not be able to do something with my wife because I have to work. And like Brett, it's 7 days a week. I mean, even when I'm not writing about cars, this business is open 7 days a week, so I can always find an excuse to do work at any time of the day or any day of the week. The only way I can not do work is by physically removing myself and going on a fucking yacht somewhere, or literally leaving my shit behind. And it's the only way I can not work. Other than that, it's like if I see an empty square on the calendar, I'm putting some shit in there, and then some other shit's gonna come up last minute.
Right.
So I'm not very good at schedule management. I bite off more than I can chew, and I've done it for 15 years.
Yeah.
But It's a fun job.
No, that's the thing. You know, I
don't
tell
hate
people,
it.
yeah, I was like, I still really enjoy it. Like, I like just about every single part of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I like driving the cars. I like doing research. I like interviewing people. I really love the writing still, and it's still an adventure and fun for me every time I write a story. So I feel pretty lucky in terms of that.
I like all those things too. I don't like selling ads, and I have to do a bunch of that.
Yeah, luckily I don't have to do that part.
Yeah, that's when you work for other people. It's nice. They sell the ads for you. Chappie says, have you talked M5 CS with any of your UK colleagues? Oh, did you drive the M5 CS?
I have not.
Great car, awful seats.
Okay.
But the tiny little English people that we know, they seem to like the seats. Or they spend their time not running errands in the M5 CS, only drifting it on airfields.
Okay,
And
right.
so they seem to like it very much. But that's it. It's not. It's become more of a controversy than it needs to be. Zach and I don't like the seats. Other people like the seats, and that's
There we
really
go.
it. Yeah.
This is how it works.
Yeah,
Right?
It's the
different
perfect
opinions.
car for someone who already owns 20 cars and gets a new press car every week anyway. If that's, and you have access to an airfield. Let's see. James Cowley, gas prices are up, cost of things are up, and yet access to transportation seems more essential than ever. Why are we not seeing 15 different electric micro cars being launched? Safety standards. How great and terrifying would modern EV versions of a Messerschmitt or Peel be? I mean, you want to take this one?
Sure. I mean, I think, Matt said safety standards, and that's a huge part of it. I have actually driven a Peel at the Lane Museum. They have one that they let me drive, and it was an absolutely awful experience. So there's that as well. Like the microcars.
Peels are great when you see someone else driving them, and not
it's
when
neat.
you're
Yeah, it's like the geodesic dome of cars, essentially. But it's
It is. It's like a Dymaxion for one.
Right.
Isn't it?
I think we had two people in it, strangely enough, which was not ideal circumstance. But I think we talked a little bit about e-bikes and other forms of electric mobility. I think it'll be interesting. I think we need a little bit more clarity and regulation, I think, especially in New York, about where these things can and can't be taken. The sidewalk is not the place for a bike that goes 40 miles an hour. You know what I mean? A crowded sidewalk is not that spot. A dedicated bike lane, maybe it is. But I think, and I feel the same way about these scooters or whatever. I've never been on one because I know that I'll break my back if I ever stand
while you're
on
here,
one.
you
but
should certainly
I
try
should probably
one.
try it out.
Yeah, they're fun.
Going down a 33% grade.
Not an Echo Park. No.
Not an Echo Park.
Yeah.
But I think that's the big issue. I think, smaller, more efficient electric vehicles, I think, make a lot of sense. It's just a question of convincing people to buy them.
Well, here in Los Angeles, in certain parts of town, you can buy what is basically a golf cart. And road register it. In some cases, it's an actual golf cart. In some cases, it's just a golf cart-like thing, like a gem. And you can use it on roads where the speed limit is 35 or less.
Right.
Legally registered, legally insured. They cost, $5,000 to $10,000. Some are 2-seater, some are 4-seater. They can go, maybe 20 miles on a charge, and they go like 25 or maybe 30. And I see some of these things around, and you can't like legally park them anywhere you want, but practically you can park them anywhere you want. Like I've never heard of anyone getting a ticket on one of these fucking things.
Yeah.
And so we are seeing that, and I see so many e-bikes. I mean, I think because cars really have to have safety standards, the idea of a micro car isn't really legit. It's golf cart or e-bike or scooter. Micro mobility is a thing, and we are seeing that. Although, you still, in a very dense place like Los Angeles, you still need somewhere to keep it. I mean, a golf cart takes up less space than a car, but like a lot more space than a bike. So if you don't have a garage, it's not like you still need your own personal garage, and it doesn't totally replace, like you could drive the golf cart instead of your car, but you probably still need to own a car.
Right.
So now we're talking about a 2-car garage.
Additional vehicle. Right.
Yeah, so it's a matter of space.
Yeah, I was surprised at how heavy the bike is.
Have you tried to take it up the stairs?
Yeah, I was going to. I was like, we're staying. The place we're staying is like the downstairs of a house, like a separate apartment, and it's great. But I was like, I'll just like lug it up and down the stairs or whatever. I was like, oh no, I will not be lugging this.
At our old studio, which was on the second floor upstairs.
Yeah, right.
I carried it up the stairs and I pulled 3 muscles in my fucking rib cage because this bike weighs like 85 pounds.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
It's really hard to carry.
Yeah, it's
up
unwieldy.
The stairs.
Yeah. Anyway, I will not be doing that.
Kevin, thank you for the tip. James Cowley says adoption of EVs seems slower than I would have expected. Is the Model 3 still the Model T of EVs, or will it be the 900-volt tech that Lucid brings that will really change the tide? I mean, the thing about EVs is like they're still really expensive. Like they're $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. It's not like there's some super affordable one for everybody. A lot of people can't charge them at their homes. You know, I think the real change in the game is not the cars themselves at this point, but the proliferation of very fast, very reliable, plentiful charging stations.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think there's also definitely, greater increased options and affordability and finding ways to bring that down, whether it's through incentives or rebates or whatever it might be. But I think also there's a huge component of it that's like consumer education, Like I talk to people all the time, and at this point, a lot of the people that I know or a lot of the people that I speak to know someone, that has an EV, right? Especially out here, or has had significant experience with them. But there's a lot of places where that's not the case, And so I think that's a big component of it as well, and something I'm working on a story idea about is just sort of, what are automakers doing, and what can organizations or other people do to assist with this educational component of it, to get people used to the idea of electric vehicles and change their mindset about them. And I think this will be a big shift.
Also, I think we've been very spoiled with our gas prices for a very long time, and if this current trend in gas prices is sustained for a year or 2 years or 5 years, we will see the shift happen more rapidly.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of the studies show that, we haven't really seen EV ownership increase with enhanced gas prices, but we also haven't seen the gas prices be as high as they are currently. There's still a fraction of the actual cost of burning carbon-based fuels, so we have to keep that in mind too.
I'm curious to see how once the F-150 Lightning comes out, and I feel like that will help expose a lot of areas that are not really popular, or that where EVs are not popular. Like how that will affect and change people's minds of they experience the smooth driving and the quiet and the torque and all that stuff, and it might kind of open them up to, okay, let's look at that with a passenger car or a crossover, whatever we're doing.
Yep.
Also, be interested to see how many of those F-150s are used as work trucks versus how many are used as lifestyle choice trucks.
Yeah.
It should be interesting. They got a lot of pre-orders. Adam Maleo, notable times a car has scared you. Lost traction unsuspectingly, accidentally found a limit you were trying to find?
I'm trying to think of a time that happened recently. I tend to just go into things a little bit softly, because, like I said, I'm not the greatest driver in the world, and I try not to get it over my head. But there was a time when I had what was it? I think it was an Audi R8. This is maybe 10, 12 years ago or something like that. And I had taken it to this giant parking lot at like a Robert Moses designed park out in Brooklyn, and was just sort of whizzing back and forth through this empty parking lot in the early spring when there was no one at the beach. And that car overwhelmed me at a certain point, and I was like, "Oh, I need to pull back a little bit here." But I'm trying to think of a time recently when that happened. I mean, surprisingly, it didn't happen in the McLaren, but I think that was my passenger limiter, as you called it.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate that didn't occur then.
I haven't really had one in a long time. I'm pretty conservative with these cars, and I work my way up, and I probably could go faster in everything, but I just don't want to.
Yeah. I think as we get a little older, I sort of realize this isn't worth dying for. You know what I mean? Like, there's no glory in this.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't found myself in all of a sudden being without traction or accidentally finding a limit as they describe. I mean, I tried to do a big drift in a GT500 on a track last year, and I fucking looped it, but I didn't go off. But that's like literally the only time in recent memory that I've like totally. Oh, I guess I drove that Lamborghini and I fucking hopped a curb. I drove not a road car, a race car. The
SCV12.
The SCV12, which is the Aventador based like crazy limited to $42 million car, and I was driving in a track that was far too small for this vehicle, and it's just it's very tough to see out of. Like we talked about, these C-pillars are really thick, and there's a decreasing radius turn. I just went a little wide, and I hopped the curb, and poo came out, and it was fucking. I lost my nerve a little bit. Car was not damaged at all, and it was an on-track little whoopsie. Like it was fine, and then I kept going. But like other than that, that's about as scared as I was in a car very recently.
I did once drive a Lexus LS 460 over a railroad tie that was in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes you park and you don't remember that there's like something in front of the, you think it's clear to go straight through.
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Oh. Dude, that kind of thing happened to me on a motorcycle once, and I couldn't believe that my body knew what to do.
All right.
Like, all of a sudden, there's like a big, probably 2.5-inch tree branch across the road. And it wasn't like a sport bike. It was like an urban kind of motorcycle. And all of a sudden, and I see it, I don't even think, I stand up on the pegs, I lean back a little bit and just kind of goose the throttle, and it just right over it. And I was like, afterwards I went, I can't believe my body knew to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't teach it to do that. I don't know. What the fuck did I learn that from? I don't know, but it worked out okay.
Yeah, there was a rock. The last time I was on Angeles Coast before this McLaren thing was driving the SF90 Stradale or whatever up there.
That's slow.
Yeah. And there was a rock, on the way back down, there was a rock. And there was another one of those moments where it was like, just like go around it or whatever without thinking. But yeah, I don't like those moments, especially in someone else's,
no thanks,
$1 million car.
And we'll end with this first one here about Johnny. So Johnny Lieberman just tested or experienced, at least talked about on Instagram, a Mercedes with a level 3 autonomous system.
Oh yeah, they had a program last week. I wasn't able to attend.
Yeah, and he said you weren't able to attend?
I was not.
Okay,
yeah, sadly.
But he said the level 3 system is pretty similar to the level 2 system, except the manufacturer assumes the liability.
Oh.
So he said this was just in an Instagram post, that the car cannot disengage. If you engage the system, it can't just decide to kick it back to you.
Right.
If it gets into a situation where it can't continue, it'll like beep at you and tell you to take over and tighten the seatbelt. But if it can't continue, it will pull over and stop with the hazards on. But during that entire period, Mercedes is assuming the liability as opposed to other systems where the driver is, which I think is actually quite a big step.
Yeah, that's a display of confidence on the part of the manufacturer that the system will function. I guess it's probably just on highways or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm guessing, right?
Part of level 3 is geofencing. So it's only on single lane travel highways. You can't activate it in regular city streets or anything like that.
Yeah.
But they assume the liability. And when I read that this morning, I went back to Unsafe at Any Speed, and there's a quote in the book. It's not a quote by Ralph Nader. It's a quote by someone else who's like, if it's incredibly unethical for the manufacturer to like they're talking about the tire pressures of the Corvair and how it's unreasonable to expect that, like the Corvair, if you didn't have, they wanted you to run 15 PSI in the front, 26 PSI in the back. And they didn't make it like super, super clear to customers that that's what you had to do. And if you didn't do it, the car would like handle like awful. And so they basically said, it's not. It shouldn't be the customer's problem if the manufacturer won't take responsibility for their products and put them on the roads. And I'm totally butchering the quote.
Yeah.
But it led me to this, which is like, oh, this is how it should be done. Where if you're going to put a system in a car and the system either implies or outright says you don't have to drive right now,
Yeah.
then of course they should assume the liability.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, no, I wasn't able to go to that event, but it sounded interesting.
It did, yeah. I hope to try that system soon. We get
Same.
the EQS in a couple weeks, which I'm kind of excited for.
Have you not driven it yet?
No, it's neat, right?
Yeah, it's great. I had an early version of it. I mean, it was a production version, pre-production version, a year ago almost in April, because we did a story for the Times about it.
Yeah, I kind of dropped the ball on it back in a year when people had first done it, but I still want to do it.
No, I think it's great. It's it's very much an electric S-Class. You know what I mean? Which is exactly what it should be. Too many screens, though. Can we have enough with the screens?
Screens equal future, though. That's
Right.
the thing, right? Screens have to mean future.
Yeah.
They don't know what to do with all that dashboard if they can't turn it all into a screen.
I know.
Johnny was walking me through it. He's like, you can move this screen down to this screen if you want to. And I was like, well, why would you want to do that?
Yeah, I know.
While driving. There's a lot of why would you want to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where we are. We're in screen proliferation.
So what do you want to plug before we get out of here? Anything?
I don't know. I mean, check out my Instagram.
If you go to brettberk.com, you can see all of his stories.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there is a whole archive in there somewhere.
Yeah. Under articles.
Under articles. Yeah, it goes on forever. But yeah, I don't know.
And The Real Brett Berk, Berk, is on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Writes for many, many people. Freelancer, gets the fuck around.
Yeah, I do.
Well, thank you for coming to our city and hanging out. And
thank you for having me on the show. I was supposed to do this 2 years ago to the day almost, but we got locked out.
It happens. But now we get to do it in this lovely studio.
There we are.
It's way better now.
Oh, agreed.
And next time you're in town, absolutely stop by again.
Yeah,
I'm glad
I'd
you
love
got to
to.
experience the most. You're the only person that does this that has actually gotten to ride the vintage electric bike. Fucking thing is awesome.
I know. We gotta be proponents for that. Although
It's like
no
like
other
the
automotive
Rivian
journalist can afford one, probably.
Right. It's like the Rivian of bicycles because it's way too heavy and way too fast.
Yeah.
and way too expensive.
It's too expensive. Yeah, but it's kind of ideal if you don't have to buy it.
It's also the
I don't
perfect thing.
worry about it when I lock it up. I don't worry about it getting stolen because it's not my bike.
See it. So it is actually the perfect vehicle.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. Zach and I'm going on the road and track route to Vine. Then Zach will come meet us, and our next show will be recorded live in front of an audience in Newport, Rhode Island, at the Audrain Museum.
Oh,
with
nice.
Donald Osborne.
All right, right on.
Yeah, we're driving a 1902 Winton MV. Veteran run. It's like the London to Brighton, and they're doing one of those in Rhode Island.
Oh, right on.
Yeah,
I like the Audrey. Donald's a cool guy.
Donald's awesome. So and Newport is such a great place. I love Newport. It's really really cool. So our next show will be live in front of some type of audience at the Audrain Museum.
Exciting.
Hopefully that works out. All right. Have a good rest of your week, everybody. See you soon. Brett, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Aston Martin, the Jolly Oyster in Ventura.
Okay,
that's
I'm
where
writing
you
it
got
down.
that car is perfect for that drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll write it down for you.
Okay, perfect.
Bye, everybody.